Welcome to my broadcast. I'm Dr. Jayne Gardner. I own the Gardner Institute, a spiritual coach training school. The thing that people ask me more than any other question about my school is, what is spiritual coaching? So today, I thought I'd do a broadcast to help you understand what spiritual coaching is and how it's different than any other kind of coaching. Two things I'll do. I'll tell you the principles that our spiritual coaching is based on today. And then, if you're still with me after that, I will take you through an example of someone that I coached that we use spiritual coaching with. So you can actually kind of see what it's like in real life. Our school is based on 4 spiritual laws. And they're laws that I have, come up with, so to speak, after 25, 30 years that I've had in working with people. And what I've found is that when I work with people and use the process that I invented several years ago, that people go through a profound transformation. And so what I'd like to tell you is the spiritual laws that transformation is based on. There are 4, and the first one is that everything begins within you. Everything begins within. And what I mean by that is that in spiritual coaching, we don't ask someone to change their behavior. We don't work on focusing on getting people into action in the usual way. What we do is we go deeply inside and we help someone get in touch with their spiritual desires and look at how to go inside the mind and create, because we believe that spiritual principles and spiritual thoughts create reality. The second spiritual law is as within, so without. So we know, and this is proved by supported by quantum physics, is that whatever you think about comes about. Our thoughts create material reality. Mind over matter kind of is behind that. Our third spiritual law that our spiritual coaching is based on is that buried emotions never die. By what we mean by that is that in neuroscience, we know that emotions are more powerful than thoughts. So we know that we have to remove emotions, negative emotions, from your thinking in order to create. Our fourth spiritual law is that we are all one. And again, neuroscience shows us through mirror neurons that we're all connected. So let's go and let me tell you an example of someone going through this process so you kind of see how this all works together. Because when I came up with the idea of spiritual coaching, I didn't want it to be some woo-woo out there concept that people thought, oh, this is kind of out there. I really want you to see how science and spirituality come together to create this process and give someone the ability to really transform themselves within, to change their brain is really what we're going to teach someone how to do in spiritual coaching. I have a client, I'm going to call her Deborah. And Deborah came to me, and people that come to me have specific goals that they want to achieve. We encourage that because we want someone to get it, that coaching really helps you create the world and the life that you want. Her material goal was she came to me, and she was newly divorced, late 40s, and her goal was she needed to get a job. And she hadn't worked in 17 years. And she said, I need a job and I need to make, and this was the number that I required of her, because we required number goals so that you really get at how spiritual thoughts create material things. Thoughts create. So her material goal, once we talked about it, she said, to operate my house and to keep my house after this divorce, I need to make $5,000 a month. Now, this was a big push goal because she hadn't worked and she really didn't have any what we would call marketable skills. She had a degree and she had raised 3 children in the last few years. So she had some skills, but as far as the marketplace and how they would look at her, she was scared. She says, I don't know how I can ever get a job, much less make $5,000. So the first step, again, is to help a client set a material goal, a number, if you will. The second step in spiritual coaching is to take this client through the process that I've invented over the last 20 years of working with people. I've come up with kind of what works and what doesn't work, and I picked what works and made it into a process. So the second step is to take them through what we call a rewire process. Again, we're changing the inside, our brains, to make our thoughts be consistent with what we want. So step 2 in the process, taking through the process, is about looking at what beliefs she has, what thoughts she has that might be holding her back, might be limiting her from her goal. So we help her figure out her limiting beliefs through the process, and then we help her install new beliefs. Now, what we're really doing, this is really critical that you understand, is we are really changing the inside of your brain. We know now that the brain has something called neuroplasticity and can be changed, but not many people know how. And we have a specific step-by-step process that changes the inside of your brain so that your spiritual thoughts can create what you want. The third step, again, in our process is to release any negative emotions that might be holding you back. Neuroscience tells us that emotions in the creation process, emotions are really more powerful than thoughts. So what we helped her come up with is what emotions might be holding you back. And what we found out in Deborah's case was that she still held a lot of resentment toward her husband divorcing her. And then we traced back even earlier emotion that might be holding her back, resentment and negative things. And through the process, we helped her release those. So we had figured out what her limiting beliefs were. We'd helped her rewire them. And we had released some of the more significant negative emotions in her life. So we had an opening, didn't we? Had a clearing in her mind where now she could just state what her new beliefs were, empowering herself to believe them and be able to create her goal. Fourth step is kind of tricky, and it was for her, as it is for, I think, all of us when we're trying to create. And that is to let go of the how it's going to happen. You know, she was struggling with how in the world will anyone want to hire me, and much less for $5,000 a month. So we helped her what we call mindset your way into the goal. Instead of struggling to change your behavior or to get into action, we helped her see that if she could increase her confidence level, believe in herself through these new beliefs she's established, she would indeed pull toward her just the right job that she wanted. And we didn't want her to figure out how, because we know that everyone has a deep level of unlimitedness in them, an inherent capacity to become unlimited. And as we helped her to get there, to get to what we call a high level of divine intelligence. So as her energy level rose and she began to feel more confident, her body began to show that those neural pathways had been rewired. And indeed, she began to have what we call a cellular change, a bodily change to the fact that she changed her thinking and released the negative emotions. She began to be a different person in how she felt about herself. And lo and behold, what did happen? But she what she said was, out of the blue, someone called me. It was a woman that she had known in high school and hadn't really talked to in many years. But the woman called her and said, "Deborah, do you know anyone that might be willing to help me in a new endeavor?" She said, "I'm creating a company. And the mission of this company is going to be to help women that have been out of the workforce for 20 years or more to get a job." Well, Deborah said, "I sure do. I would love to join you." And the woman said, "Well, we have limited budget," but she said, "We could pay you up to $5,000 a month." I know. It seemed to be a dream come true. It seemed illogical. It didn't make sense. But then we know that when we get to that highest level of spiritual authority and energy and power, we create whatever we're thinking about. It is amazing what spiritual coaching will do for you. I encourage you, if you want to know more about our spiritual coaching, to contact us through our website or through email. Let us know what you think and help us get this out to the world. We'd like for everyone in the world to know just how to create the exact life that they want.